I didn't know that the standing ovation would turn into a federal investigation before he even left the stage. My name is Elena, and for 3 years I believed we had nothing left. The night Marcus told me we were broke, I was folding our daughter's laundry in the bedroom we could barely afford to heat anymore. He stood in the doorway with his laptop, and I remember thinking how tired he looked, how defeated. I actually felt sorry for him. "It's gone," he said. His voice cracked in exactly the right place. All of it. The crypto portfolio crashed. I thought I was diversifying. I thought I was protecting us. I dropped the tiny pink sock I was holding. Our savings? The college fund? The money my mother left me when she died? Gone. He showed me charts I didn't understand, numbers that meant nothing to me, volatility graphs that looked like heartbeats flatlining. I trusted him with our finances because he worked in wealth management, because he promised he knew what he was doing. That night, he held me while I cried. He whispered that we'd rebuild, that we'd get through this together. His shirt smelled like the cologne I bought him for his birthday, back when we could afford birthdays. The next morning, I started applying for jobs I was overqualified for. Anything. Everything. Marcus kept going to work at the financial advisory firm where he was a senior partner, but he said they'd cut his salary due to market conditions. We moved from our 4-bedroom house in Riverside Oaks to a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where car alarms were the soundtrack to dinner. I sold my mother's jewelry, the pieces she wore on her wedding day, the necklace she never took off. Our daughter Iris was 5. Too young to understand why we suddenly couldn't afford her dance classes, or why her birthday party was just me, her, and a grocery store cake in our cramped kitchen, but old enough to ask questions that cracked me open every single time. Why can't Daddy fix the money? I didn't have an answer. Marcus changed after the move. He became distant, irritable. He snapped at Iris for leaving toys out. He criticized the meals I made, even though I was stretching every dollar until it screamed. He started working late, coming home after Iris was asleep, smelling like expensive restaurants I knew we couldn't afford. When I asked about it, he said clients were buying, that he had to maintain appearances for work. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't name it. Grief does strange things to your instincts. I was drowning in bills and shame and exhaustion, trying to keep our daughter's world from completely falling apart. I didn't have energy left to question the man who claimed to be drowning right beside me. 6 months into our new life, I started a blog. Not for revenge, not for exposure, for survival. I wrote about budgeting with nothing, about explaining poverty to a kindergartner, about the specific humiliation of using a food bank in the same town where you used to donate to charity galas. I called it Starting Over at Rock Bottom. The blog grew slowly, then suddenly. Other women found me, other mothers who understood the exhaustion that lives in your bones when you're trying to hold everything together with willpower and expired coupons. I started a YouTube channel because someone suggested it might generate a little income, ad revenue. Enough for groceries, maybe. My early videos were shaky phone footage of me meal prepping beans and rice, showing thrift store hauls, sharing how I explained to Iris why we couldn't buy the toys her friends had. I wasn't trying to build a following, I was just trying to breathe. But people watched. They shared. They commented with their own stories of financial loss, of partners who'd made devastating mistakes, of rebuilding from nothing. Within 8 months, I had 40,000 subscribers. Within a year, nearly 200,000. The YouTube money helped. Not enough to move back to our old life, but enough to buy Iris new shoes when she needed them. Enough to stop selling off pieces of my past. Marcus hated the channel. He said I was exploiting our family's pain, that I was humiliating him publicly. We fought about it in whispers after Iris went to bed, our voices sharp and bitter in the dark. "You made this mess," I finally said one night, my hands shaking. "I'm just trying to survive it." He slammed the bedroom door so hard a picture fell off the wall. In the morning, he apologized, said the stress was getting to him, said he was proud of me, actually, that I was stronger than he'd ever been. I wanted to believe him, but 2 weeks later, Iris came home from school upset. One of her classmates had parents who watched my channel. The kid told Iris that her daddy lost all their money being stupid. I held my daughter while she cried, and something cold settled into my chest. That afternoon, I made a decision. I was going to stop the channel. I was going to protect what was left of our privacy, our dignity. I logged into my account to film one final video, a goodbye to the community that had kept me afloat. That's when I saw the email. It was from a woman named Patricia, and the subject line read, "I think I know your husband." My hands went numb. Patricia worked in private wealth management, different firm, same industry. She'd been watching my videos and something had been bothering her for weeks. She'd finally placed Marcus's face from a networking event. She kept the email brief, almost clinical, but the last line made the apartment tilt around me. I saw him last month at a client dinner at the Meridian. He paid for a table of 8. The bill was over $4,000. I read it 17 times. The Meridian, the restaurant Marcus said clients took him to, except Patricia was saying he'd paid for 8 people, $4,000. I sat on the kitchen floor with my laptop, my daughter watching cartoons 10 feet away, and I started searching. Not for evidence. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew that the math didn't math. Marcus's car was a 2019 sedan, modest, exactly what a man who'd lost everything would drive. But when I went through our shared photo cloud that night, looking for something I couldn't name, I found a picture he'd taken and never deleted. A parking garage, his car, and in the reflection on the window, another car, a Tesla, midnight blue, the license plate partially visible. I ran the partial plate through every free online database I could find. Nothing conclusive, but I knew that car wasn't ours. I'd never seen it before. Sleep became impossible. I started watching Marcus differently. The way he dressed for work, expensive suits that he said were old ones from before. The way he never let me near his laptop anymore, password protecting everything. The way he'd started showering immediately when he got home, even before saying hello to Iris. I needed proof, but I didn't know what I was trying to prove. 3 days after Patricia's email, I did something I'd never done before. I told Marcus I was taking Iris to my sister's for the weekend. Instead, I dropped her with my neighbor, a retired teacher who adored her, and I followed my husband to work. He didn't go to his office. He drove 40 minutes north to a development I'd never heard of called Preston Heights. Gated community, houses that started at $2 million. My stomach turned itself inside out as I watched from down the street. He punched in a gate code like he'd done it 1,000 times, disappeared inside. I sat in my 10-year-old Honda, shaking so hard I thought I might crack a tooth. He was inside for 90 minutes. When he came out, he was on his phone, laughing. Actually laughing. I hadn't seen him laugh in a year. That night, I smiled when he came home. I asked about his day. He said it was fine. Boring meetings, difficult clients. He kissed the top of my head and went to take his shower. I wasn't quiet because I was weak. I was quiet because I was learning. Over the next month, I became a ghost in my own life. I documented everything. I started checking our mail before Marcus could, finding credit card statements for accounts I didn't know existed, cards in his name only, charges at restaurants, hotels, clothing stores. I photographed every page with my phone before putting them back exactly as I'd found them. I set up a Google alert for his name and the name of his firm. I joined online forums for people suspecting financial infidelity. I learned terms I'd never heard before: offshore accounts, asset concealment, economic abuse. The more I learned, the clearer it became. Marcus hadn't lost our money. He'd hidden it. From me, from the IRS, from everyone. But I needed more than credit card statements and suspicions. I needed something concrete. I created a fake email address, generic, forgettable, and I sent a message to Marcus's work email pretending to be a potential client interested in discreet wealth management services. I copied the language I'd seen on shady financial forums talking about privacy-focused portfolio strategies and international diversification. He responded within 2 hours. The email was professional but warm. He suggested a call. I panicked and deleted everything.
Too risky. He'd recognize my voice, even disguised. But the response told me what I needed to know. He was still actively working, still managing money. The salary cut was a lie. I needed help, professional help, but lawyers cost money I didn't have, and I didn't know who to trust. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I went back to my channel. I filmed a video. Not about Marcus specifically, about financial abuse in general, about how someone can make you believe you're drowning while they're swimming in money you built together. I didn't mention names, I didn't share details, but I asked my audience a question. If someone was hiding money from their spouse, what would the evidence look like? What would you look for? The comments section exploded. Forensic accountants, divorce attorneys, people who'd survived exactly what I was surviving. They told me about subpoenas and discovery, about tracking wire transfers and finding offshore accounts, about how cryptocurrency could be moved and hidden and lost and found again. One comment stood out. It was from someone named David Tremaine. He identified himself as a forensic accountant specializing in asset recovery. He said if I ever needed help, he did pro bono work for financial abuse cases. He left a professional email address. I stared at that comment for hours. Reaching out meant admitting this was real, that my husband wasn't a victim of circumstance, but an architect of my suffering, that the last 3 years of shame and struggle and poverty had been theater, a performance with me as the only audience member who didn't know it was a show. I wrote the email at 2 a.m, sitting on the bathroom floor so Marcus wouldn't wake up. I told David everything. The crash that wasn't a crash, the move, the sold jewelry, the food bank, the credit cards I'd found, the house in Preston Heights. I attached photos of the statements. I hit send before I could stop myself. David responded at 6 a.m. 3 words. We need to talk. The call happened 2 days later, during my lunch break at the retail job I'd taken to supplement the YouTube income. I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. David's voice was calm, professional, kind. He asked questions I didn't know how to answer. Bank names, account numbers, property records. I felt stupid and small and utterly lost. Elena, he said finally, I think your husband has been running a sophisticated financial concealment operation. Based on what you're telling me, we're not talking about one hidden account. We're talking about multiple offshore structures, possibly shell companies. This is bigger than a bad marriage. This might be criminal. The word criminal felt like cold water down my spine. I can help you, David continued, but I need you to understand something. Once we start pulling this thread, we can't put it back. There will be consequences. Legal consequences. Are you prepared for that? I watched a mother wrestle a toddler into a car seat 3 spaces over. Normal life. Regular problems. Yes, I said. I'm ready. David worked fast. Within a week, he'd traced Marcus's financial footprint through public records I didn't know existed. Property ownership in Delaware, a registered LLC in Wyoming, credit checks that showed accounts I'd never heard of. He found the offshore accounts through patterns in wire transfers Marcus had made from our joint account before closing it. Tiny transfers I'd never noticed, always under $10,000 to avoid federal reporting requirements. The hidden wealth was staggering, over $4 million. Some of it was money Marcus had made through his firm, bonuses and commissions he'd never told me about. But at least $1 million of it was money we'd saved together, money from my mother's estate, money he'd told me was gone. There's something else, David said during one of our calls. Your husband is about to receive an award, the Regional Excellence in Financial Services Award. It's happening in 2 weeks. Black tie gala, industry leaders, press coverage. He's being recognized for his integrity and client-first approach. I laughed. It came out bitter and sharp and a little unhinged. Elena, David said carefully, I've been working with someone at the IRS. They're very interested in Marcus's situation. Very interested. If you wanted to make an impact, that awards ceremony would be quite the venue. My heart stopped. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying that if certain information became public at that event, it would be very difficult for Marcus to control the narrative, and the IRS could act more quickly with public pressure. I should have felt scared. I felt alive for the first time in 3 years. The plan came together piece by piece. David would attend the gala. He had connections in the industry and could easily get an invitation. I would create one final video. The video. Not vague, not general, specific, with receipts, with evidence, with David's full forensic report backing every single claim. But I wouldn't post it before the ceremony. I'd schedule it to go live during Marcus's acceptance speech. The 2 weeks before the gala were the longest of my life. I kept smiling at Marcus, kept playing the struggling wife. He told me he had a work event he couldn't miss, some boring industry thing. He didn't invite me. I said I understood. I filmed the video 3 days before the ceremony, sat in front of my usual setup, just me and a ring light and the truth. I didn't cry. I didn't yell.
I just explained, showed documents with Marcus's name on them, showed the shell company registrations, showed the property in Preston Heights that he'd purchased 8 months after telling me we were broke, showed credit card statements with charges at luxury hotels on the same nights he told me he was working late at the office. I explained how he'd moved cryptocurrency around, creating the appearance of loss while actually transferring assets to accounts only he could access, how he'd filed taxes claiming financial hardship while hiding millions, how he'd let me sell my dead mother's jewelry while he bought a second car. The video was 18 minutes long. I uploaded it as unlisted, scheduled to publish at 8 p.m. on Friday. The ceremony started at 7. Marcus's award was scheduled for 8:15. The timing had to be perfect. Friday came. I told Marcus I was taking Iris to a movie. He barely looked up from his phone. I took our daughter to my sister's instead, explained that something important was happening and I needed her to be safe. My sister hugged me for a long time. "Burn it all down," she whispered. David texted me at 7:30. "I'm in position, front row. IRS contact is here. 3 reporters in attendance. Your video is going to detonate." At 7:45, I went live on my YouTube channel. Not the scheduled video, a live stream. I wanted to watch it happen in real time. My hands were shaking so hard I had to set the phone down on my kitchen counter. "Hi, everyone," I said to the camera. "In about 15 minutes, something is going to happen. My husband, Marcus Holloway, is receiving an award tonight for excellence in financial services, for integrity, for putting clients first. And in 15 minutes, you're all going to learn exactly what kind of man he really is." The viewer count climbed. 100, 500, 1,000. At 8 p.m. exactly, my pre-recorded video published. The live stream chat exploded. People were watching both simultaneously, sharing the video, tagging news outlets, tagging financial regulation agencies. The algorithm caught fire. My phone started ringing. I ignored it. I watched my live stream viewer count hit 100,000, then 20, then 50. At 8:17, David texted me a photo. It was Marcus on stage, mid-speech, holding his award. Behind him on the venue's massive screen, because someone had connected it to the Wi-Fi and cast my video, was my face, my voice, my evidence. The photo was blurry, but I could see Marcus's expression. Confusion turning to recognition, turning to horror. The next photo came 30 seconds later. Marcus, frozen at the podium, audience members on their phones, people standing, someone pointing at the screen. Then my phone actually died from the volume of notifications. When I got it charged and back on, the world had shifted. My video had 2 million views. The live stream had been watched by over 100,000 people. The hashtag CryptoWidow was trending. News outlets were picking up the story, and David had sent me a message that made my knees buckle. IRS is moving forward with a full audit and investigation. Criminal fraud charges likely. They're also looking into his firm. You did it.
The aftermath came in waves. Marcus tried to call me 47 times that night. I blocked his number. He tried to come to the apartment. I had already changed the locks. He sent emails claiming I'd misunderstood, that he was protecting assets, that he was planning to tell me. Each email was more desperate than the last. His firm suspended him pending investigation. The award was revoked. 3 of his clients filed complaints. The IRS moved faster than David expected. Within a week, they'd frozen Marcus's accounts, all of them, including the offshore ones, including the ones he thought were untouchable. 2 weeks after the gala, I sat in a lawyer's office filing for divorce and full custody. The lawyer took my case pro bono after seeing the video. She said it was the most documented case of financial abuse she'd ever seen. Marcus's legal team reached out. They wanted to settle, wanted to keep this quiet, wanted to make it go away. My lawyer told them we'd see them in court. The criminal investigation took months. I testified. David testified. The evidence was overwhelming. In the end, Marcus pled guilty to tax evasion, wire fraud, and financial elder abuse because some of the money he'd hidden had come from my mother's estate, and there were specific laws about that. He got 4 years. His law license was revoked. The firm collapsed. I got the house in Preston Heights, not because I wanted it, but because the court ordered him to liquidate assets to pay restitution and back taxes. I sold it immediately, used the money to set up a trust for Iris and to start a nonprofit helping women escape financial abuse. My channel grew to over 2 million subscribers. I still make videos, but now they're about recovery, about rebuilding, about teaching women the warning signs I missed.
Iris is 8 now. She takes dance classes again. She doesn't remember much about the apartment, about the before times. I'm grateful for that. Sometimes people ask if I regret how public I made everything, if I wish I'd handled it quietly, privately, through lawyers and sealed documents. I tell them the truth. Marcus didn't hide money in the dark. He hid it in plain sight, behind my trust and my grief and my exhaustion, behind the shame he knew would keep me quiet. I didn't destroy him. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences of his own choices. And I did it in the light, where everyone could see exactly what happens when you mistake silence for weakness. The last time I saw Marcus was at the final custody hearing. He looked smaller somehow, older. He tried to catch my eye, but I looked straight ahead. My lawyer squeezed my hand under the table. The judge awarded me full physical and legal custody. Marcus got supervised visitation, pending completion of his sentence. As I walked out of the courthouse, my phone buzzed. Another message from someone who'd watched the video. Another woman who'd just realized her own husband was hiding money. Another person ready to stop being quiet. I messaged her back, and I started typing the words I now know by heart. First, document everything. Second, find someone who believes you. Third, know that silence isn't strength. It's just silence, and you deserve to be heard.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.